Hey everyone, it's Megan from meganmins.com, and I just kind of wanted to pop on unannounced today and share my story because it's a question I've been asked several times over the past 6 months or year, or really since I started my business, because I know for me as a business owner, it's really inspiring to hear other people's story and their journey, and you kind of realize that everyone just has their own path. So I figured I would just kind of break it down, how I got started doing what I do now and all the changes and evolutions that came with starting a business and getting to where I'm at now. So I actually started meganmins.com back in 2013, and I actually originally offered graphic design, branding, and custom handwriting services. Started on WordPress and spent pretty much 99% of my time just messing with the way my site looked, trying to have the perfect logo, learning how to customize everything, and I pretty much did no actual work on my business. I just messed with my website the whole time. Hi, Wendy. Thanks so much for being here. If you're just joining, I am telling a little bit about my story and how I got to where I am now. And so back in 2013, like I said, I had a website, but wasn't really selling anything. Towards the end of the year, I got some of my first clients, and they were friends or friends of friends. And again, I was doing custom website design, branding, and graphic design and handwriting services. So very different from what I do now. But it was really fun to start making some money and see that I could contribute something that people were interested in having. I was working a full-time job during this time. I graduated from college in 2012 and was working full-time in human resources. So it was definitely a side hustle and kind of a passion project. I didn't know what would come from it. Never had an idea I'd end up where I am now. I just realized my headphone is all wonky. So that's kind of where I was at the beginning. I didn't really have any clear vision of where I was heading. I just was kind of working on something creative on the side of my full-time job. So then it was in 2014 when I decided to take things a little bit more seriously. I formed an LLC, and I was still focused on the design things. I was still considering myself a designer. I also learned that as a designer, for me at least, it was really challenging to have my work be so subjective, because being creative and creating any kind of art is really personal, and I do not have the right personality type or anything to be a designer really, because I just couldn't handle the subjectivity of it. And I also felt like it was a really competitive industry because everyone was so good, and I never felt like I was really as good as the other designers that were out there. So it was a really hard time for me in 2014. I just decided to become an LLC, and then months later was kind of second guessing everything. If you've ever gone through these ups and downs of a business, give me a little thumbs up or a little heart just so I know that I'm not the only one. But that's kind of what 2014 was for me. And I was kind of trying to explore new areas. And so at the end of 2014, I pretty much never talk about this. I actually tried to launch it, or I did. I launched an Etsy shop where I was selling notepads and stationery, and it was going really well. And then I got a cease and desist letter from another Etsy shop owner who thought one of my items was too similar to hers. And it was totally one of those things now, years later, that I could have handled and addressed and wouldn't have freaked out about. But I freaked out, you guys, in 2014 in the fall, and I just had this dream of my Etsy shop being open, and I got a cease and desist, and it totally freaked me out, and I closed the shop. Like after a month, I was like, nope, I can't handle this. Everything I've done was a mistake. I felt like I was going to quit my side hustle. It was just not working. I knew I needed to make a change, and I was working a lot and not loving it. So I'm ending 2014. So this was 3 years ago. I was just not in a good place. I wasn't feeling great about where my business was going. I wasn't really sure what the future held. So it wasn't a great way to end the year, but I'm just being totally honest and real with you guys. So then in 2015, I was talking to a friend of mine named Amber, and we were talking about my strengths, my weaknesses, what I'm really good at in my full-time job, and what I like to do. And I'll never forget, she was like, have you ever thought about being a virtual assistant? And I was like, no, that's never crossed my mind. And she just kind of opened my eyes to the idea that I can pivot my business and that that's okay. And she kind of gave me that little boost of confidence in knowing that it's kind of normal to do that. So in the very beginning of 2015, I pivoted. I stopped doing design work. I stopped identifying as a designer and decided to promote myself as a virtual assistant. It did completely fall in line with all of my strengths. I love organizing. Anytime I entered a full-time job, I was always the person who came in and said, these 10 things aren't working out. These things are unorganized. We should be doing it this way. Let's start using Asana. Let's do this. Let's do that. And kind of making these improvements. And being a virtual assistant totally played into my strengths. And so it was really, really amazing because as soon as I switched into being a virtual assistant, and don't forget, I still had a full-time job at the time, things took off. I loved the work I was doing and I got booked out within just a few months. And I did barely any marketing. I just was engaging and helping people out in Facebook groups. And people would just fill out my form on my website and ask to work with me. And so since I was working full time, I had a pretty small amount of hours I could even take on clients. So when I say getting booked out, always keep in mind that that was on top of my full-time job. I was booked out. So I wasn't doing like 40 hours a week of client work yet. But I loved it and it was amazing. So that was like in January or February when I made that shift in 2015. And by the time it was April, I wasn't taking any more clients yet. And I actually started working with Mariah Cause, who's a dear friend of mine now. And I just got introduced to her by being a student in her group and helping out in a Facebook group. So it's kind of funny to look back and see how things changed and formed and how we ended up where we are now. So I was still working full time in my job. I am not the brave, take the leap and it'll all work out type of person historically. I needed a plan. So I was definitely in a season of life where I was really, really busy. I was saying no to social events because I had a full client roster and I loved doing the work. So I'd wake up, go to work, come home, sit down and do more work, stay up really late, get almost no sleep, and even working on the weekend. So I wasn't the healthiest example of a side hustler, but I was loving it and it was a really special season. So I was just all in. And then that summer in 2015 is when I launched my very first program, Squarespace in one weekend. And my sale, looking back, I didn't have like my launch wasn't $10,000 or anything, but it was several $1,000s. And that was huge for me. And just really validated that I could maybe make this whole business thing work. That was also in my business, just so for some context of as a virtual assistant, I was kind of one of the first in my awareness, the first to specialize in being a technical virtual assistant. I've always been kind of a nerd, love the tech, figuring it out comes really naturally to me. So I decided to be kind of a specialty technical virtual assistant, which I think really helped me stand out, especially for business owners who get hung up on tech. I was there to kind of help solve those problems. So that was really my focus back in 2015. I also did my first few webinars, which was a rush if you've ever done one. And it's kind of crazy because in November of 2015, I was able to quit my full-time job. So I made that shift in January or February and, 10 to 11 months later, I was no longer working my full-time corporate job, which just blows my mind because I'd been struggling as a designer for so long before that. But I think it just is a testament to me of how doing what you're supposed to do and working in your zone of genius is going to just escalate how things happen for you. They're going to happen faster and easier because you're doing the right work. You're doing work that you truly love and that you excel at. So November 2015 is when I quit my job. So I side hustled for 2.5 years because I started in 2013. So it was a lot of side hustling. So I definitely was not like an overnight type of success at all. And I wasn't making six figures yet or anything like that. I was able to quit my full-time job. Again, I'm very practical because I had enough clients that wanted to work with me at a higher capacity that I was able to just be very honest and say, well, I have my full-time job and I can't give you more hours until I no longer have this full-time job. And I was able to coordinate a situation where I could have an increase in hours guaranteed to me when I quit my full-time job. So as soon as I quit and I got to work with my clients for more hours it all worked out. So I had a nice little safety net, and I was also working in a retainer-based model, which I still do. So I knew I had, guaranteed income for 6 months farther down the line. So that was really helpful for me in making the switch and taking the leap and feeling safe about it, because I don't know, props to everyone who's so brave and just takes the leap and figures it out. I'm not that cool. So it's really exciting though. So I've actually been a full-time entrepreneur since November of 2015. So this is my anniversary, my 2-year anniversary basically. So it's pretty timely that I'm kind of going back and sharing how I got there and what has happened since then. So ending November 2015 on a high, especially compared to how I was ending 2014 the year before. So a year can make a huge difference. And ultimately for me, this is how I make decisions in my life. I look at the worst case scenario. So when it was deciding if I was going to leave my job and take this risk, I was saying, well, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario for me was that I try this out for 6 months, and if I hate it, if I don't like working for myself, if I miss the corporate job, or if I'm just not making money, then I'll go back and get another corporate job. But it's at least worth the risk. So that was where my head was at that time. Okay. So now we're at 2016, and it was time to kind of specialize a little bit more. I was still managing some client inboxes, doing their emails. I was actually still doing some graphic design for social media, and I decided to cut that out and really just do the technical work that people needed my help with. And honestly, over time in 2016, I gradually started to take on higher and higher responsibility with my clients. And I began to basically be an online business manager and a project manager. And it happened really gradually. And didn't take a fancy class or have anyone teach me how to be an online business manager. I just really went with my strengths. And as I was growing with clients, their need for higher level support increased. And so I went with it. And it was really amazing to see that evolution. I was still doing the tech work. So even as an OBM or project manager, I was still creating deadline funnel, updating people's websites, doing the tech work behind everything. Around that time, I started creating my own products too. So I created some spreadsheets people can download. I co-created Website in a Box, which is now called Square Your Site, with one of my clients, Mariah. And that was really exciting and rewarding and a new challenge. And I also began earning affiliate revenue in 2016. And 2016 was actually my first 6-figure year, which I think is just a credit to the different income streams I had. I had my client work, I had co-created products, I had downloadable products, I had affiliate revenue. So it was definitely diverse streams of income at that time. But it was just amazing to me that, a year after leaving my full-time job, I was hitting this milestone that I honestly didn't know if I would ever hit. And I just really credit it all to doing the work that I was good at. And so if you're in a business and you're struggling with kind of where you're at, there's no one size fits all for being a business owner or running your business. And, people talk about hitting your 6-figure, and I know sometimes that turns people off. And so my point in saying that is because it wasn't overnight. And I want to highlight that didn't happen until the end of 2016 for me. And my brand and business started in 2013. And that was 3 years of a lot of struggles and heartaches and late nights and mistakes and lessons learned and evolution. I feel like my story is a story of evolution, and I just love to see other people and other brands evolve too, because as a business, you have to evolve to survive. And so it's been neat to see the evolution of my business and coming back and revisiting what my journey was. So 2016, that was kind of it in a nutshell, just continuing to do what I was doing and introducing new product streams or income streams. And then 2017, this year, I don't know about you guys, I feel like it's kind of been in the water this year, but this has been a year of this evolution brewing inside. Not really sure what it was going to become. Still even not 110% sure what it's going to become, though I think I'm almost there. But just this evolution deep inside, feeling a shift in the waters. And I think that's kind of also industry-wide for a lot of online business owners who are feeling that way, and especially those who are B2B like me. I help business owners, and I feel like the whole world of online business is feeling this evolution as well. So after years of being the support person behind the scenes, I declared 2017 the year of fearless visibility, which I wouldn't say I've done perfectly, but it's definitely been a huge difference from years before, where I decided to try to step out of just being behind the scenes and be visible and be a voice and try to help people in a more visible way. And so I did some work on trying to identify my mission as a person, almost beyond just a business, but as a human on the world. What is my deeper calling, and doing some self-work. I also hired a team, so that's really exciting. I released 2 more online courses, and I have shifted this year to just doing project management work with my clients. So I evolved out of the online business management role. I evolved out of the technical VA role and really honed in on just doing project management, which is my favorite. I love going from the big picture to the detailed action steps. And I feel like I've seen that in all the work that I do. But again, it's pretty interesting to see every year almost there's something evolving and changing in my business. And a lot of that's because of the growth and the lessons learned. And we as business owners evolve as well. And so it's natural that our businesses continue to evolve and try to grow them. So everything kind of tweaks and changes every year. So again, this year's been like an evolution, but I didn't feel quite done yet. Like the project management shift of just doing that hasn't felt like the end of the evolution. It kind of almost still feels like the beginning of the evolution. And I just really feel called to help people in a deeper way. Working with people on projects is great, and I love it, but it is so you can only have a certain number of clients and you get maxed out and you can't really help on a deeper level. And even with online courses, I kind of feel the same way, because tech trainings are great and teaching people how to use Asana is great, but there's not that deeper connection and deeper transformation happening. So just some insight into where I'm at right now is trying to seek that out and identify how I can bring some more of that into my business and into the world around me, which sounds super cheesy, but I'm super excited. I don't have things 100% planned out. It's a big lesson for me as a planner who loves to have action steps mapped out, 90-day goals mapped out. It's kind of a lesson in going with the flow and trusting the process and being vulnerable and stepping into things that feel slightly uncomfortable, knowing that it's going to work out. But I'm in that stage of just like, okay, let's just see where this goes. And that's why in the name of trying something new, I sent out an email to my list this week introducing that there's a few limited spots. I don't have it quite mapped out yet because I'm experimenting. But I want to open it up for people to work with me one-on-one in a new capacity. So not as a project manager, but more at a higher level of mentoring or consulting on, for 3 months or 6 months or whatever timeline makes sense. And then also even like coming in and overhauling your systems in your business or a VIP day. So really trying some new things out and just seeing how they goes. I know I can do them and help people, but it's going to be a new experience in doing it in this way and in this capacity. And I'm really excited for it. So if you're curious about that, you can go to meganmins.com/workwithme to see more about that and apply if you're interested. But I have some lessons. So that's kind of like timeline of where I've been, how I got to where I am now, and where I'm at right now, which obviously is on the brink of another phase of my business, which is really exciting, but nerve-wracking. So I want to share some lessons. Looking back at it all, what are the like the big takeaways of my entrepreneurial journey so far? So number 1 is just get started. Ideas are meaningless if you don't take action on them. And this is definitely a lesson learned because I typically have an idea and then sit on it forever before I do something. I need all the information and I procrastinate through research before I do something. And so it's still something I'm working on, but I wish I could have told myself back in 2013 or even 2012 when I had the idea to start something, just get started. I would also say get outside of your comfort zone. I'm still working on this now, but getting outside of your comfort zone is essential as a business owner because it's scary, it's challenging, it's nerve-wracking, and it's hard, but it's also so fulfilling and rewarding and amazing. I've never been like before I started my business, I wouldn't have considered myself even a confident person or super decisive. And it's been really cool to see that by running a business, how much I, as a person, have evolved and grown. And I can make decisions and I can be super confident and I can get out here and get on camera and talk about my story in a more vulnerable way, which I never would have been able to do before. So definitely get outside your comfort zone. I would also say don't waste time or money at the beginning trying to have a perfect website or brand. I spent way too much time at the beginning messing with the way my website looked. And obviously my business has shifted multiple times and is going to continue to shift. And so if I had spent thousands of dollars on a custom website when I was a graphic designer, that would have been totally irrelevant like a year later. And so I think as you're beginning your business, it's really important to not waste time trying to have the perfect brand or have the perfect website. It's more important that you just get out there and start helping people and creating content. And maybe this sounds bad, but focus on bringing in the revenue because you're a business and you're not a business if you're not making money. You're a hobby. You're an expensive hobby, which is how I think my business started. It was a business, but it was an expensive hobby until I started making money. And that probably sounds harsh, but I think it's something that's important to realize that no matter how good of a person you are, money's not bad. So needing revenue in your business does not make you a bad person or make your business less meaningful. But focusing on that instead of just having the perfect website. And I've touched on this several times already, but just acknowledging that your business will evolve and you should let it. Don't be afraid to change your mind, pivot your business, or evolve. Because truly, I'm a nerd. I've read books. I've read papers on it. There are distinct stages of business. And even if you get to the top stage where you would think you're perfectly successful and happy, a top tier business can still die if they don't evolve. So that's where you look at big name brands we know are struggling in today's society. People like Walmart. I think they're doing okay now, but the bigger brands like Walmart and some bookstores have been struggling because they haven't been able to evolve with the other companies around them. So even if you're at the top of your game, 1 month, or year, if you don't continue to evolve, you're not going to be at the top for long. So it's really important that as you start your business, you already accept this idea that you're going to evolve and to let it happen and don't fight it, and kind of trust yourself in that. I would also say, ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario or what's the worst that can happen? That has always been a tried and true litmus test for me when I'm making a tough decision. And then I would also say specialize, especially if you're a service provider. Either specialize in what kind of work you do or who you do it for, because doing things like that, just like niching in who your brand is, by specializing in the work that you do, you're going to be able to stand out much faster in your space. And plus, you'll be in your zone of genius. You'll be working with the people that you thrive, or you'll be doing the work that you thrive in. And so you're going to end up being more profitable too. Okay, big one that I've learned this year is to hire a coach or a mentor. I think I joined a group program back when I first started my business, and I loved the support, but didn't feel like I could continue to invest in that way. And that's one of my biggest regrets, because I did hire a coach and a mentor this year. I've done a lot of investing on myself, and it is a game changer, because when you have that sounding board, that support system, that guidance, it really makes things just so much easier and fun and collaborative, and I'm more inspired. I look forward to those calls where I can bounce ideas off of it, and we make plans, and we it almost feels like you're steering the ship with someone else too, but also with their experience and their expertise alongside of you. So I wish I had started investing in coaches or mentors years ago, because I think it would have propelled me to move forward faster. That's what I've learned a lot from the past 6 months when I started working with a new coach, or a coach for me. I feel like I've made so much progress in a much shorter period of time because of their support and guidance. It's similar to this. I'm on the support theme right now. Joining mastermind groups, whether they're free or paid, and making friends is really, really helpful. And I have the best friends in my personal life and they ask me questions about my business and they're super supportive, but there's just such a difference between having supportive friends who still don't really understand what you do and having supportive friends who understand your language, that you can talk shop if you need to, but you also don't have to. So I really find that having that support system that you can just jump on a call and talk to someone that's your friend and having their feedback and support and encouragement is just so helpful and, again, a game changer. So whether that's like a paid mastermind or a free one or just people you've kind of met in other Facebook groups or in the real world, you could go to local meetups, but just finding support for yourself through a coach or a mentor, and then also like friends and a support system. It's a really, really a game changer. And that goes for no matter how big or small your business is. Okay, last few lessons here and then I'm done. It's okay to step into the spotlight and dream big. It may be scary, but leaning into your bigger purpose and vision is life-changing and really, really exciting. Again, my year of visibility for 2017, I may just continue to call 2018 that too. It's been an amazing way to challenge myself. For me as the support person, everyone's different with this. Some people are naturally forward facing and they're the visionary and they're out there and they don't struggle with this. For me, like I said, my comfort zone is being the like right-hand person behind the scenes, the secret weapon. And there's a place for that, but there's also a place for stepping forward and just dreaming big and going for it and going all in. And so I just want to encourage you guys that it's okay to do that. Take the risk, take the step forward, be verbal, be a voice, help people. It's all really, really good. Okay, last lesson to kind of wrap all of this up is every single journey is different. There is no one formula for success, and there is no measuring stick for comparison. Do not worry about how long you've been side hustling or how profitable you are compared to others or how long you've been in business compared to that other person who just came out of nowhere. Don't worry about that. Your journey is unique to you, and it's that way for a reason, because I can look back on the hard lessons I learned and how slow I was and how I felt like my progress was slow at times. And I can look back and see what purpose those seasons had in my business, in my life. And I still try to remind myself of this as well. So don't compare your business and your journey to anyone else's, because you are exactly where you're supposed to be and your business is exactly where you're supposed to be. That doesn't mean you can't quickly ramp it up to the next stage, but don't fall into the comparison game. Just embrace your journey and the way it is. So there we go. That is my story, year by year, lesson by lesson, of how I went from working full-time in human resources back in 2013 while starting Megan Minns, and where I am now, how I got here, and the lessons learned. So I hope this was really helpful. I really appreciate you guys, your comments in here. And yeah, Emmanuel says going with the flow is uncomfortable. Absolutely. I totally agree. Jane says she's a music teacher. Do you have any tips for someone like me that isn't naturally good at organizing? I'd love to develop my business more via online courses. As a person who is, it's kind of interesting. I feel like I'm organized when it comes to business and digital and electronic, and I want to be organized in my personal life, but my personal life organization totally gets thrown out the window. It's like low priority in my organizational priorities. But so Jane, if you're not naturally organized, I would say a few different things. I'd say that's okay. It's good that you know that. Being self-aware is always super helpful. But I think it's important to take time to clean things up. So maybe for you, that's once a month or once a week to go in and kind of clean up what you've got going on, if you're talking about files specifically. And always think about things kind of in buckets. And like my filing system, I have buckets like marketing, products and programs, operations, services. I have my little buckets and things get filed in those buckets. And I do the same categories in my project management system as well, and pretty much everywhere. So I tend to think, I group things in these buckets across my business. So it feels really consistent and easy to maintain because I'm calling things the same everywhere. So I hope that's helpful. And that's kind of like a big question to just answer, especially since I don't know more about what your current status is. But I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my story. I would love if you would give a little thumbs up. Let me know if it was helpful at all, or if you want to leave a lesson you've learned from your business in the comments below. I would love that too. So thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.